nothing like she expected.
Well, first of all, I never thought I'd live this long.
Are you kidding me
Oh,
with the way you
no.
take care of yourself?
No, that started late in life. I did not think I was going to live very long, and I didn't think I would be happy. And if I lived so long, I'd be miserable,
Really?
lonely, maybe an addict. I mean, I just did not have a very good image of old. Why would we have a good attitude about old age? What I'm discovering is that it can be pretty great, and I wanted to understand why.
This discovery came when she hit 60 and entered into what she calls her third act. But the joys of getting older were only possible after Fonda did an extensive life review, examining her past and learning in the process who she really was. So when people think of Jane Fonda, I think of an icon, a beautiful woman who has been a big voice for all of us women.
I think of a woman who has struggled a lot in life to be a whole person. I've been an addict. I've been a pleaser. I've been someone who gave myself, I'm someone who didn't know that no is a complete sentence. It took me a long time to figure out what I needed to do to be, as the French would say, bien dans ma peau, really well in my skin, feel okay about myself, feel, I don't need to be perfect. We're not supposed to be perfect.
It's hard to believe this young actress who rose to fame in the 1968 cult classic, Barbarella, and then went on to win 2 Academy Awards, would have any doubts about who she was. In fact, Fonda's insecurities began as a young child. Her relationship with her father, legendary film actor Henry Fonda, was often distant, while her mother's was cut short after she committed suicide when Fonda was only 12. Who are you to get brave enough to do a life review? I'm trying to forget what I did in my 20s.
There's a lot that I'm really, really ashamed of about my past, but I want to know why I was the way I was. And I went through life feeling I wasn't good enough. And so I decided the day that I turned 59, in a year I'm going to be 60. And it's going to be the beginning of my third act. I don't know how to live my last 30 years.
Really?
So I needed to know, well, what would I regret? And in order to know how to do the last 30 years, I need to know what the first 2 acts have been about.
And what she learned gave her the courage to be her true self, helping to end her third, very public marriage to media mogul Ted Turner.
When I turned 60 and began to really gain confidence, I was ready to bring my whole self to the table, and I don't think he could quite deal with it.
Really?
When you're someone who has a hard time with showing up, you're going to steer clear of people who are
right
going to say, come on, Valerie, come on, show up.
Yeah.
So I ended up with men who couldn't show up. And I was ready to show up, and he didn't want to. And so I had a choice. I could stay with him and be very well taken care of and happy, and he's wonderful
sense
and
of humor,
funny
right.
and everything like that, but I'd never be whole.
That's very
I wanted
brave.
to become whole.
And being brave meant standing on her own 2 feet, no longer needing a man to validate her.
I went from a 23 kingdom-sized properties that he owned, in a jet that slept 8, and all these closets, into a tiny little room in my daughter's house that had no closet. And I stood in the middle of the room, and I was so sad. And yet I knew that I was becoming whole. And I said, this is God.
Wow.
And I knew it, that I would be good. I would be okay from then on.
Fonda describes that experience as mounting a staircase, a natural progression upward in life as you age. But you talk about it as being...
It really should be spiral because change is spiral. It doesn't just happen. It takes a long time to learn the lessons. But part of going through the last third of life is to reflect on your experiences. It's not enough just to have them, but to reflect on them and to try to say, what does it have to teach me, and what's interesting? And Katharine Hepburn taught me this. She was the first one that said, every morning I get up and I write in my journal. And she said, the most thing I write about is my failures, because you learn more from failures. And it's true. It's from your mistakes, your failures, on every level, professionally, emotionally. That's where you learn, if you take the time to reflect on them and try to understand what they had to teach you.
Yeah, you don't strike me as someone who regrets your failures at all. But
Well,
I'm sure there's things in your life that you do regret.
Yes, I do. But I mean, I don't I try to learn from them. Here's another thing that's
Not
really
repeat a
important
mistake.
is to own them. You know, own your mistakes, and that's an important part of aging. And the studies that show that most people over 50 are happier and less stressed in everything. And you know, partly it's because we have this long backward view. You know, we've been there, we've done it. We survived heartbreak, we survived financial crises, we're still here. We don't make mountains out of molehills. We tend to
Let more things roll off our back.
Yeah, that's right. We tend to see what we have in common with someone else more than what are the differences, and it makes life a lot easier.
And owning up to mistakes is something she knows far too well. Fonda earned the nickname Hanoi Jane in the 1970s as an outspoken critic of the Vietnam War, a part of her past she wishes she could take back. Why do you think some people have such a hard time forgiving you for acts that were 40 years ago?
Oh, because the Vietnam War left such a scar on the American psyche.
Really?
And there's been so little understanding, even today. And I make a convenient lightning rod, and it helps the fact that I'm a woman, that I'm privileged. All of those things make it easy for men who are scarred and wounded to hate me. I accept what my responsibility is and the mistake that I made.
You've made that very
clear. And I have apologized many times. So it pains me when people continue to hate.
Well, anger is, yeah, it starts with pain or fear.
But the problem is if you don't forgive and if you go through life with that hatred, you're the one that's locking yourself into a prison.
And it's that understanding that allows Fonda to continue mounting that staircase, both literally and figuratively. Jane Fonda, now in her prime and loving it.